for coming. I want to thank the Fairgrounds for letting us host this event. The Hayfork Chamber of Commerce is representing with our amazing board members in the back, Charlene, who probably you RSVP to, and to Sharon Eggleston. They are my women. I am Dana Hauser. I will be emceeing tonight, asking your questions that I have received on the index cards. Feel free to channel them up here as the night goes on. I would like to ask if you two would like your 5 minutes to talk and see if questions come in first, and then, because I figure the sheriff back and forth might go on a little bit longer. How does that sound? Do you not?
That's good.
Yeah, okay, right on. You really have to be on this microphone to be amplified at all. No wiggle. Let's see. Fabio, would you like to start?
Sure.
Okay, sounds good. So you have to stand right here.
Okay, I will stand right here. Okay, maybe a little bit like this. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Fabio Robles. I currently serve as the Deputy Superintendent of Schools, and it's an honor to serve schools, families, and school communities as your Trinity County Deputy Superintendent. I've worked at the Trinity County Office of Education since 2014, and I have 21 years of educational experience, from being a teacher, an assistant principal, a principal, and a director. And over the last 5 years, I've served as the Deputy Superintendent of Schools, where I've gained experience and also a clear understanding of the role of County Superintendent of Schools. I've also built trusting relationships with educators, families, and community agencies. And I also plan and look forward to continuing to lead our office in doing anything that it takes to ease the many challenges that our students, our families, our teachers, school staff, and school administrators face. The position of County Superintendent is unique in that it is a position that is about support. It's about support to our school districts. With 9 school districts in Trinity County, each one can set their own direction and focus. TCOE has about 50 employees who are involved in many different programs in support of students, families, and school districts. Our programs range from early childhood education all the way through to adult education. We are a service organization offering support, help, and hope to many community members. Sometimes the role of the County Office of Education gets confusing, or is confused by folks, with the role of power and authority. However, it's really not about that. It's about helping support and be a liaison to our school districts from the state. So not only do we bring information to our school districts, but we also bring information back up the channel to our state representatives so that they're aware of the many challenges that we face in our rural frontier county. So while it's important for me to tell you about my qualifications and what I plan on doing, I think it's even more critical to share what I've done to lead efforts that directly impact the Hayfork community. And so I wanted to take some time to let you know about that. I've directly brought in over several $1 million to our county, and you might recognize some of these programs that are a direct impact on Hayfork Elementary, for example. The School Readiness Program, the After School Program, and then social emotional curriculum and supports. Those 3 programs alone I've had a direct impact on, and secured grant funding that goes above and beyond the funding that a district would get and receive. So it's fully funded programming to kids in Hayfork community. It's close to $200,000 annually just to Hayfork community on those 3 programs alone. Now that's just a drop in the bucket to the services that we provide, but I wanted to just highlight those because I'm very proud of those over the last 8 years, making sure that those are not just in Hayfork, but they're our outlying areas, especially around early childhood education, where those services there aren't any if it weren't for the School Readiness Program in our outlying areas. I also serve as the superintendent of Rise Academy. Rise Academy is a trauma-informed school, and it provides wraparound services not only to the students but also their families. And we currently have several students from Hayfork that participate in Rise Academy. In addition to programming, I also serve on several committees, local committees in our county. I won't rattle them all off, but some First Five Commission, the local Child Care Planning Council, the Safe Schools Collaborative, the Disaster Council, the Foster Youth and Homeless Advisory Committee, just to name a few. I also sit on several regional committees and councils, and also state committees and councils, where I continuously advocate like a broken record about our needs in our rural frontier county. So I'm running for Trinity County Superintendent of Schools to continue to expand and enhance the current supports for our local school districts, and to also ensure that any gaps in services to any of our outlying areas especially are filled with equal programming that you would find in all parts of our county. So all students, no matter where they reside, receive quality education and programming. And it would be an honor to earn and have your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, right on. Next up, we have Terry McBrayer, our treasurer.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Terry McBrayer. I'm your current treasurer tax collector. I know I'm running unopposed, but I still like to get out there and let you all kind of know what we do. There's a lot of, I think, confusion about which department with government who does what, and so it's nice to kind of get that out there and share. And if you have any questions, I'm always more than happy to answer those for you. I'd like to talk a little bit about where I came from and how we ended up. I think we have a lot of transplants here in Trinity County, so I like to kind of hear everybody's story. But I'm from Dallas originally. That's where I actually met my husband, and so he is a Trinity County boy. And so after visiting his hometown, you know, I kind of fell in love with the place, and that's where we decided this is where we wanted to raise our children. We made our home here in about 2006. We have 4 children. The last of our 2 just graduated this past year. You know, we're thankful that we've had the opportunity to raise our kids in a close-knit community like this. I have served in this office for over 15 years now. I have over 25 years of finance and banking experience. I hold a bachelor's degree in accounting with an emphasis in business administration. I am a credentialed California County Senior Executive through CSAC. It's a county organization where they basically design specific curriculums for county officials for what would be leadership and policy competencies that would be expected of county officials. I like to kind of clarify a little bit on the role. So I'm treasurer and tax collector. So as far as the tax collector, the things that drive our office are established by laws, code, and county ordinances. As an elected official, I have fiduciary responsibilities, meaning that I'm going to put the interest of the county first before everything else. My obligations are to collect, protect, and invest the vital revenues of the county. As tax collector, I administer the billing, collection, and reporting functions for property taxes, transient occupancy taxes, and now the cannabis tax revenues. I ensure proper internal controls to perform, accounting and fiscal record-keeping duties, and the collection of all these taxes. We serve as a check and balance system for the other departments within the county. As treasurer, I'm in charge of balancing the needs of the pool participants within the guidelines of our policies, as well as state codes that are applicable. Safety, liquidity, and return within the cash flow restraints of our county and other depositors are what mandates my functions. I serve as the depository performing cash management functions for all funds belonging to the county, schools, and special districts within the county. During my time in office, we've had many accomplishments to serve the public more efficiently. I am very active within my respective organizations throughout the state. I do a lot of lobbying for The community, we've had a lot in regards to, the more vulnerable population, elderly, disabled. We played a big part in making sure there's a program called property tax postponement. And of recently, we have a new one that's going to roll out that is, in fact, in about a month or so. So if you know anyone that's having issues with potential foreclosure, there's a new thing that's going to be rolled out, and it's got a lot higher thresholds for those to help those that with all the effects of the COVID pandemic. I have a wonderful team, and that's what makes things work. We continually strive to, ensure the best overall experience, for our community members. Nobody likes to pay taxes, but it's a necessary function. I truly appreciate my team and their attitudes and ethics and service. That's what makes it work. Trinity County is dear to my heart. I care about our community and those that live here, and I appreciate the time that we've served. It's been a privilege, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. We'll go through the other candidates' intros, and then we'll go back around and ask questions, the questions that have accumulated. So next up, Sheriff Saxon, please.
Good evening, Tim Saxon, your incumbent sheriff running for re-election. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here this evening, and welcome to all the candidates here, including those running unopposed. Anyway, just like to start off saying, previously my opponent has said that they could have had the same opportunities as I did with my career with the Highway Patrol, and I just want to start off by saying I just want to disagree with that a little bit because, in 1983, I did start with the California Highway Patrol, and at that time there were about 13,000 employees with that agency. Now, if you think about it, that's about the population of Trinity County. So if you think, again, that's every man, woman, and child in Trinity County, that's how many people were at the Highway Patrol. As I worked with that organization, when I promoted to sergeant, I was about one of 800 sergeants with that organization. And then I promoted to lieutenant, and I was one of about 400 in that organization. I eventually promoted to captain, and I was one of about 200 in that organization. And I mention that because when I retired after 28 years with that agency, to be one of 200 people out of about 13,000, that's a pretty significant accomplishment. So to be able to say that anybody else in this county could have had pretty much the same opportunities, it's a pretty bold statement. So as I was with that organization, I had numerous mentors who assisted me and saw my qualities, saw my skills and abilities, and they helped me reach my potential over the years, including directly working for 3 CHP commissioners. To give you an idea, a commissioner is the person that is in charge of that organization. So the person in charge of 13,000 employees. I worked with them and they helped me, guide me, mentored me. I had an opportunity, I grabbed those chances to work with different things, including working with the Office of Traffic Safety, the Office of Equal Employment Opportunity. I also worked at the state capitol with several offices there. I was an investigator for backgrounds, internal affairs, equal employment opportunity, discrimination. I taught sexual harassment, racial profiling, civil liability, hate crimes. I worked at the CHP Academy. But before that, I had a real job. I worked in retail sales in the private sector. I started as a stock clerk. And I worked my way up through that organization, and it was a family-owned business. They had 9 stores, and I was eventually placed in charge of the number 2 store in that organization and worked myself up to the general manager, where I was in charge of 50 employees. At the age of 21, I decided to leave that organization. I went to work for an armored car company. And while working there, I started as a driver. That's the guy that just sits around, drives all day long in that truck. But I had fun doing that, and I was eventually promoted to the messenger. That's the guy who jumps out of the truck all day long, going into the banks and the stores and collecting the money. And then I was promoted to the night supervisor, in charge of all the trucks, making the night runs, going up to San Francisco and bringing the cash back. Then I got to be the daytime supervisor, and eventually the assistant manager for the office. And again, I took advantage of these opportunities, learning different things about working the entry level, the supervisory levels, and then the management levels. And then I decided it was time to go into law enforcement. That had been my lifetime career. And that's when I decided to do that. And I mention these, and the point being is that these experiences point out that knowledge, skills, and abilities that make a well-rounded individual. And I believe that the experiences I just related make me the right choice to be your sheriff, to protect people, property, and the environment. And that's why I'm running for re-election. That's why I want to be your sheriff for another 4 years. So a lot of things that I've accomplished the first 4 years, 3.5 years. There's a lot more things I want to accomplish in the next 4 years. And that's why I really want to be here. That's why I'm really asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Deputy Bailey.
I don't want to trip on the cord here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jamie Bailey, and I want to be your next sheriff. I would like to thank you all for taking the time to come out here tonight, participate in this important evening of questions and answers. I would also like to thank the Hayfork Chamber of Commerce for holding this candidates night and inviting us. There are some familiar faces out here, but I would like to tell you a little bit about me and my 24-year law enforcement career. I'm 45 years old, and I grew up in Hayfork. I was hired by the Trinity County Sheriff's Department in 1998. I worked as a correctional officer and a dispatcher for 6 years. Also during that time, I took a leave of absence and put myself through the police academy. I applied for and was hired by the Anderson Police Department in January of 2005. I worked for 2 years in Anderson as a police officer and a school resource officer, all the while knowing that I wanted to come back to Trinity County. In January of 2007, I was given an opportunity to return to Trinity County as a deputy sheriff. I worked in the patrol division until 2011 when I was assigned to Trinity County's first code enforcement officer position. I was a part of the implementation and procedure making process of the position, although it has changed drastically since. In 2010, I completed my associate's degree in general studies with an emphasis in public safety and service. In 2013, I was assigned to the detectives division. In 2014, I was promoted to frontline supervisor as a corporal. In late of 2017, I was reassigned back to the patrol division, and that is my current assignment. Also, since 2010, I have been the county's communications coordinator, point of contact, handling the communication repeaters for the fire departments and law enforcement agencies within the county. As you can see in my 24 years, I've had an opportunity to work in all the different divisions within our department. I believe this experience prepares me to have a clear understanding of the inner workings of the whole department and to be able to adapt to the needs as they change over time. Many have asked why I'm running for sheriff. Change. We need change. We need transparency. We need accountability. We need consistency. I will be a sheriff who is going to work with the community to try to find the solutions to the current issues as they arise. I will be a sheriff who will communicate with and listen to you, the community members. I will be a sheriff who will work hard to protect and serve Trinity County. It may be a cliche, but it's what I believe in. I want to give the citizens of Trinity County their voice back. I will also work to improve our response to the outlying areas and answering calls for service in a timely manner. Morale is probably the lowest it's ever been in our department. With accountability, consistency, and a team effort, I believe we can bring back pride and trust in our office, in our team, and in our communities. With better morale and pay, I believe we can stop the bleeding of losing employees. If elected, I will serve the citizens of Trinity County by working with the Board of Supervisors and other government agencies to be the leader this community deserves. I am a proud supporter of the Second Amendment. If you are lawful and able to possess a concealed weapon permit, I don't see a reason why I should stand in your way. I will abide by the guidelines which I am bound by set forth by the state of California and the United States Constitution. I don't support illegal marijuana operations which are detrimental to our forest land and environment. Water diversion and illegal land conversions will continue to be a focal point under my administration. The major crimes that follow these Illegal operations have caused our communities to be unsafe for both our residents and our visitors alike. I've logged thousands of hours of training throughout my career, but one that I believe is very important would be the school resource officer position, as I believe school safety is imperative to protect our children. I will bring an updated active shooter hostile persons program to all schools in the county, along with working directly with each school's administration to find what will work at best at their locations. There are military veterans along with many very experienced deputies who work in our department. I will utilize their training and skills to create a highly trained team to protect our communities. Trinity County is my home. This is where I grew up. I will do everything in my power to be the best sheriff for all the citizens of Trinity County. Again, I would like to thank you for this opportunity to answer your questions. Please consider voting for me. It would be an honor and a privilege to be your next sheriff.
Great, thank you. I just want to see if there's any other questions that are out there before I start firing off at these two. There's only a question apiece, though. Okay. But the big stack, it's like a book. Fabio, what does local control mean to you at the district level? Seating curriculums, setting county-wide policy. Oh, setting curriculum and setting county-wide policy. Was my question clear enough?
Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for that question. Local control, it means just that, local control. Each district, like I mentioned earlier, has the right to go forth and have their own focus and direction of how they want their school district to operate. As a county office, it's our job to support, be a liaison, and be of a service. We have many services. Not all of our districts take advantage of all of our services because they don't all fit what their needs are. So our job is to just determine what services each district needs and then offer that service. And if they want to utilize those services, that's great. If not, we go back to the drawing board and we try to figure out what their needs are. We continuously do needs assessments. We continuously seek input from the public, from our community members, so that we use the limited funding that we have to make sure we're meeting the actual needs of each community. So local control just means that. Local control, each district has that. Hope that answered your question. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you for that answer. I think that was pretty good. I got yours, Terry. Okay. What, do you think that the cannabis tax is being implemented with the intent of Measure G?
This one has been quite the hot topic, but I'd like to say before, initially when this was a group of cultivators that created this tax. This is not something that came forth from the county. So when they started working on this, they did approach us, they approached the other county departments, and so we discussed the different what their intent was with different things within the ordinance. And so I feel that we do have a handful that do not believe that it is being implemented what their intent was. From the people that approached me that were circulating the initiative to be put on the ballot, the intent was it's tiered and it's by type. So you've got 3 different types and you've got 4 different tiers. So the intent, and what I was told, was that so that it was to protect the small farmers. So if you had a small farmer, for instance, that only had 50 pounds of flour, then they're going to be taxed at a different rate than the larger, more commercial grows that are shipping things off to Southern California. And so that was the intent of it, was to protect the smaller cultivator. And so what I'm finding now, the ones that are approaching me that are disagreeing with the way that the tax is being implemented are they are large cultivators, and so they have far exceeded the 4th tier, and so that's typically over 1,000 pounds. And so it's just one rate. You don't get to it's not going to be broke out. And so that's what some cultivators would like, is so that I want to pay this rate for the first 100 pounds and this rate for the next pounds. And so That is not what I was approached with. And prior to us even implementing it or starting any sort of policies, we did talk with council. We made sure that everything was legitimate before we did that. So this is not something we're trying to change the way this is being implemented. So I do feel that we are. There was this is kind of a little bit off topic, but so this basically like in 2 installments. And so the thought was that they were going to tie this in with when the harvest periods took place. And so basically there's an installment that would be due November. So if they had that, early fall harvest, and then so money would start coming in for them. So they would have, so January to June is due November, and then July to December is due May. So it was with the intent also so that they had opportunities to be paid before they even have to pay the tax. And so I would say, yes, that it is being implemented, because I did quite a bit of, I'm going to do all my research, talk to all the powers that be before we do anything, and that is what happened with this. But the ones that are giving us problems or disagreeing with that are typically the extremely large cultivators. These are not the mom and pops that was intended for. So.
Thank you for your thorough answer. As far as the cards that I have in my possession, those are the only questions we have for you. You are welcome to stay, but I'll warn you, it's probably going to get long. No, I don't know. Feel the heat? All right, cool.
Bring it on.
All right, cool. All right, well, everyone's favorite topic, COVID. I am assuming, since you are acting sheriff at this time, this question is for you. It is not notated, though.
Okay.
Did you comply with the COVID mandates? Do you believe in the science, or did you just go along with it? I should have prefaced this previously. I am going to ask the question on the card, period. Whatever you guys write, I ask the question. So some of the cards on the question are mine, but you won't know. So would you like me to repeat that?
Is that, I guess it's for me, can I
Yeah.
see that?
Yes,
Is
you
that-
can. You can hold on to that.
Okay, I'm going to answer it the best way I can based upon what I'm reading here. Did you believe in the science, or did you just go along with it?
I believe the mandates.
I'm guessing it's with the mask mandates, with enforcing the mask mandates. When the mask mandates came out and the enforcement of it, I did not. I believe that the mask mandates were best enforced by Cal OSHA and each individual business that was responsible for enforcing those. I did not believe that it was a law enforcement issue to have to enforce those particular laws, only because law enforcement was busy enough doing what we do each and every day. If a business in and of itself had an issue with a customer that was not complying with the health orders with regard to customers not masking up and asked that individual to leave, then it became a trespassing issue. If a business then had an issue with a customer that would not leave, they would be able to call us. We would respond to remove a customer from their business who was not complying with their wishes for that person to leave. But as far as the mask mandate itself, no, I felt that it was not law enforcement's responsibility to remove that person from that business.
Thank you. Deputy Bailey, would you like an opportunity to respond? Some questions are more focused for Sheriff Saxon, but just in case, I want to give you the opportunity in case you wanted to add anything. Okay, great, thanks. Just want to be fair. Next, will you be going along with more emergency orders and mandates, considering how harmful the effects have been? Do you look at alternative news sites? So this could go to both of you. If more mandates are implemented, how would you handle that? I think is generally that question. I'll leave the card here. If Jamie, Deputy Bailey, if you would like to start.
You can call me Jamie. Okay. As far as further emergency orders, again, it's specifically, at this point, I don't believe it's a law enforcement issue. You know, I would just have to see what it is. If they went with a full law, then obviously I would have to go with a law. But at this point, I don't see it that way, and that's not, I wouldn't go by that at all.
If I'm understanding the question, emergency orders in and of themselves are not laws. What the governor has issued with regard to governor's orders, my feeling is again, those are not laws. Laws are passed by our legislators. They go through a process. Those are our representatives. Those are voted upon. Those become laws. Laws are what the sheriff enforces, not orders from the governor. And it also depends on at what point and how bad a pandemic gets, how dangerous it becomes. Obviously, COVID is a very serious issue. COVID is a very serious virus that's going around, and it's very serious and can affect health. I think here in Trinity County, we've done a very good job as communities taking care of ourselves and being careful as to who we have contact with and how we protect ourselves. There's pending legislation right now. Assemblyman Pan, Dr. Pan had a pending legislation that would actually force sheriffs to have to enforce health orders as they came down, or their counties would risk losing state funding should they choose not to enforce those health orders. And I can tell you right now, the California State Sheriff's Association, which I attend most of the meetings, the California State Sheriff's Association is fighting that proposed legislation tooth and nail, because we don't feel that sheriffs should be mandated to follow and enforce emergency orders and health orders like this. It's currently written in law that we may enforce them if necessary, but not shall enforce them. And I tell you what, I support that wholeheartedly. And the last I heard is his proposed legislation did not even make it out of his own committee. So that's where I stand on that.
Thank you both. Okay, this one is, this would be fun for you. What is the chain of command in the sheriff's office? Do you know that? I don't either, but I would love to hear it. There's also light humor involved in this, okay? I've been at the Board of Supervisors meeting all day long. So. What is the chain of command in the sheriff's office? I had Bailey, you started last, so now Saxon, if you wouldn't mind explaining that. And then I'll add another piece on this.
The sheriff, the undersheriff, and then we have different divisions within the sheriff's office. We have a detectives division, which is a sergeant. We have narcotics, which has a sergeant. We have code enforcement, which has a sergeant, a corporal, and a deputy. Then we have our administration, which has a supervisor, a couple of records clerks in there. We have our administration unit, which has an administrative services officer, business manager. I have a couple of assistants in there. Then we have the jail, which now has a jail commander, corporal positions, and then we have correctional deputies and correctional deputies / dispatchers.
Thank you.
And then we have our patrol division, which is very important.
That's next on the list. I guess this question is more for Sheriff Saxon because he's running the department right now. So, and then who is in charge of patrol daily?
Patrol division is run by a sergeant.
Sergeant? Okay. I don't even know how to ask the question. Pardon. What are the sheriff's office hours necessary for the job? For the job being, I know. I'm not sure what they're trying to
What are the sheriff office hours necessary for the job?
Maybe your office hours.
What are the sheriff office hours? My
I have
sheriff,
a way to make it easier. That's my question.
okay.
I was dying in suspense and my wife is criticizing my question.
She's going, can't you write a question the right way?
I don't care what you think, but she was just in my ear.
Okay,
To be more specific, what I'm asking is, what is the requirement for you to be in, what are your requirements to be in the office on the weekly? So when people ask, how come you're not out on the street? What are your mandatory office hours that you have to be conducting business from your desk?
oh, mandatorily, I believe I'm required to work 2 days a month. Seriously, that's what I'm required to do. How often am I at the office? I'm at the office anywhere from 5 to 6 days a week. During fire season last year, I worked 42 days straight. Number of hours a day, anywhere from 8 to 12 hours, sometimes longer, depending on the number of meetings I attend. So I'm at my desk, or if a call comes out, I go out to the field to assist the deputies. I go up to the jail. There's any number of things. If I'm traveling, I may go to a meeting such as State Sheriff's Association, where I may be driving anywhere from 8 to 12 hours to get to the meeting, and then attend the meeting for anywhere from 3 to 5 days, and then drive back. So they're varied hours. I don't have a set schedule. I work as many hours as I need to get the job done. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Since you outed yourself, Kenny, did you intend for Jamie Bailey to answer this question too?
I mean, if she thinks that the hours are different than what he explained, I'd be curious what you think it might be.
Yeah, maybe.
The question is geared around people in our community specifically asking why the sheriff isn't or cannot be more present in our community or the other communities if he or she is tied to the office, to the desk to conduct that business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's keeping you in the office versus going out and being among the people, which is what is hoped for.
Right. And then if you could also add, what is the role of the sheriff in plain language?
Be great. It's the question.
Can I hold on to those two pieces of paper so I can keep track of what
sure.
I answered here?
That is
This is the
there,
next
and then
one.
that's
This is
just
what
at the
we're doing.
bottom. Because
Okay.
go ahead.
So as someone who is not the sheriff yet, I can't truly speak to what my hours will be inside and out. Obviously, statutorily the requirement is like the sheriff said, as the 16 hours a month. And the answer would also be similar to his in that the hours are going to be what the hours need to be. During fire season, you may not see the light of day. You might be out in the field the whole day. It could be a 10-hour day, 12 hours, 16, whatever it takes to get the job done at the time. Meetings, a lot of the meetings now seem to be more on Zoom these days. So that's pretty much all I can answer as far as that question goes. What is the role of the sheriff in plain terms? And then it says regarding jail operations, patrol, code, fire events. So the sheriff is the main law enforcement officer for the county. The sheriff is in charge of the entire department and the law enforcement agency, the main law enforcement agency for Trinity County. They're in charge of the people who are in charge of jail operations, patrol, code enforcement, fire events. Sheriff is going to be out there going to meetings, meeting with the communities, actively helping evacuate homes. I mean, it's where the job takes us at the moment.
I didn't see the first part of that because,
Oh, you know what? You didn't get asked this one yet.
yeah, I didn't get
No,
that, so.
since she was up.
Okay.
So that now it's on you.
Oh, now I can answer
Yeah,
that?
what is the role of the sheriff in plain terms?
There you go. And then if you want, there you
Oh,
go.
then go on to this one?
You're such a good mediator. Siblings.
I don't have anything to do with this one.
Well.
Okay, but I'll try and answer it.
And there's a back to that, if you flip it over.
Okay. The sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of the county. The sheriff has a lot of statutorily required obligations in the government code. The number one issue that the sheriff has is to run the county jail. That is actually the only thing that the sheriff has as far as a responsibility to do under the California government code in the state constitution, is to operate the jail to maintain safety of the inmates that are incarcerated there in the jail. As far as the other things that the sheriff does, I have meetings that I conduct day in and day out. For the last couple of years, due to COVID, a lot of the meetings I attended were on Zoom. Now that things are opening up, I attend a lot of meetings down in Redding, down in Sacramento. I maintain a lot of meetings now with U.S. Forest Service, with CAL FIRE, with State Sheriff's Association. I'm meeting a lot more with state legislators, and the intent of those meetings is to help facilitate grant funding, bringing money into Trinity County. I attend a lot of meetings now with the school districts. We're trying to initiate and bring in new programs to help our students here in Trinity County. I meet a lot with search and rescue, with our Trinity Auxiliary, and things like that. In fact, let's just bring up real quick, we've grown our search and rescue teams from 8 when we first took office to now over 60. We've brought in a lot of training for our individuals there. New equipment, like a mobile command trailer that we just got off of a grant. We're instituting new radio equipment into there to be more effective when the next fire hits, which, it's going to happen. We all know that. These are the types of things that the sheriff does, is goes in and out, maintaining communications with the Board of Supervisors, with other counties. I meet with the sheriffs of Humboldt and Mendocino and Shasta County on a regular basis, Siskiyou County. We get together and we trade information. We work on building strong relationships so that when I need their help, for example, to go into an illegal grow site, say in Southern Trinity, where I'm going to need 10 or 12 deputies to assist on a search warrant, I can call them up at a moment's notice, and Butte County will let me borrow 6 or 8 of their deputies, and Shasta County will send 3 or 4 to their deputies. I'm constantly moving, going, and meeting with people to bring in resources for Trinity County. A lot of people don't realize the fact that, and Kenny, I'm going to call you out on this because Kenny asked me specific questions. How come you're never here? And I told him, I come down and I stop at Northern Delights to have coffee every time I come down through the Hayfork area when I'm heading down to Mad River. And I sit in there for a half an hour or so, and I say hi to people when they come in and grab a cup of coffee. I come down here, I'm here for the Calcuttas, I'm here for different fundraising events. I'm in the community, I'm here for the fairgrounds, I'm here for the livestock auctions. So when people say they don't see the sheriff down here, all I can tell you is maybe we're not meeting each other at these events. That's all I can tell you on that. During the fires, I was here for the community meetings that we had at the parks. I was here in Hyam Palm for the community meetings at that. All I can tell you is the sheriff's job is really busy. It's not like it was 10 or 15 years ago when there weren't a lot of different responsibilities placed on the sheriff's office, where it was a lot easier for the sheriff to get out of the office and come down and go out into the communities and sit and just talk to people. Things are not the same as they used to be. The job has become a lot more complicated, for lack of a better term, a lot more political. There are a lot of things that are being thrown upon the office that were not like it before. There's a lot of meetings I conduct now with legislative bodies that we never had to do before. And in order to be effective in this office now, you have to be able to converse with federal and state legislators. Otherwise, we will not get the things that Trinity County needs. And that's what I've been most effective on in conducting in the last 3.5 years. And that's the type of things that I'm going to continue to do in the next 4 years. I know that was a long, drawn out answer, but Kenny, it's your fault. Next question here is, you want me to answer this?
Well, it was asked.
Okay,
I
you-
know, and
You ask the question, I'll answer it.
Okay, sounds great. I wish Shanna White was here to answer
Yeah.
this question also, seeing how, as she is the, head of our county elections. And I consider myself a volunteer because they pay us like $3 an hour. But I volunteer at the, at the Hayfork, elections location here. And also in 2020, when it wasn't here, I spent 4 days at the jail. Yeah, that was
In the
me.
jail?
At the court. Well, at the courthouse, for elections office, so anyway. Dominion voting machines have been shown to have serious weaknesses, raising concerns for election integrity. Will you assure me that you will make sure that my vote counts? And that will go to both, sheriff candidates.
Well, since I just talked. I'll
Yeah,
let
that
you
is
do
fair.
yours.
Let's switch off. Well, whatever. Whomever would like to take it is fair game, and then I'll give a bunch of next questions to the next person. Yeah, it's right there.
Sorry. So now I know why you guys were talking about Shanna White, because this is definitely a question for Shanna White. I don't believe the sheriff at any point would ever have any part in this. This is definitely an elections office question. I think the only scenario that we would ever get involved in, and I don't even think we would get involved in that, is if there was some sort of allegation, and I think that would go up to like the state level. I don't think we would even investigate something like that as well. So that's all I can do to answer that one.
Shanna definitely would be much better on this, but I have done a little reading on these voting machines, and it's hit or miss. There's people that do show that there is some questions with regard to the integrity of the machine. I can tell you my time working at the courthouse as a deputy marshal, especially during a couple of previous elections, there was a lot of issues on this. But what I can tell you is I would work closely with the marshal's office to ensure that there were plenty of opportunities for the public, those that chose to do so, to be able to be in the area, to make sure that they would have access to observe as much as possible the actual vote count, so that there would be at least the observation and the ability to see what was going on. We would have no direct ability to have any contact with the machine itself, but any complaints that came up would either go through the district attorney's office, or I would ensure that people would have access to the FPPC or the Secretary of State's office, and it would help them to make contact if they had any complaints.
Okay, thank you. I have a few questions for Jamie. Jamie, Deputy Bailey, name a few jobs or experiences you have managing a large budget and staff.
And then we can go into this and that's accomplishments. I think the most important is accomplishments as deputy.
So, as you heard in my opening statement, I've spent my time pretty much in Trinity County with the Sheriff's Department. I did spend 2 years in the Anderson Police Department. But as far as managing a budget, that I don't have. We have financial officers that are very involved in that situation. I have absolutely no doubt that I will not have any issues with this. I'm smart, I can learn, and I have fiscal officers and people in the office who can help me work through that. As far as staff goes, I've been a supervisor since 2014, and so I have managed my shift, and that has been anywhere from 1 people to 3 or 4. I've had a number of search warrants that I've been a part of and that I've written, wherein I've managed multiple people on search warrants, my own agency and other agencies involved as well, FBI, Forest Service, stuff like that. As far as my most important accomplishment as a deputy, I think I spoke to a lot of what I've done within the Sheriff's Department, working all the different agencies. My accomplishments, I mean, I'm not a big pat myself on the back kind of person, but I've spent 24 years in law enforcement. I feel like I've done a really good job. I've made thousands of contacts with people over the years, and the majority of those are pretty positive throughout the county and throughout even the city of Anderson during my time there. Let's see, besides the communications coordinator position, I feel like that was a pretty big thing that I've been a part of. I've also been a part of just interdepartmental type stuff, like a part of, I've been in charge of the review of our policies for almost a year now. I took that over about a year ago from Sergeant Cavalli. And yeah, that's.
I have one more for you.
Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome. So this one, my favorite, it's about the Board of Supervisors. You can ask the question.
So the question is, what is your experience that prepares you for working with the Board of Supervisors? My experience is I've been in law enforcement as a correctional officer, a dispatcher, a deputy, as a supervisor, for 24 years, and the biggest thing is communication. I don't have any doubt in my mind that I am a good communicator and that I won't have any issues working with the Board of Supervisors. Communication is paramount, and I have those skills.
Thank you. Now I'll go to some questions that are more appropriate for the sitting sheriff, and then we'll have some joint questions to finish up, unless there's any more out there. And if at any point, Deputy Bailey, you want to share comment afterwards, you're welcome to. This isn't just restricted to, but these are about our some current situations. What about Hayfork substation? Unusable to public for too many years, no hours, no phone number, very public unfriendly. And I would love to hear your plans for this substation actually after that.
Thank you. Yes, you're right. The substation is, in essence, has been closed for a couple of years. Initially, when I took office, my plan was to completely redo the substation. We went in there, we took out the flooring, the carpet, we took out the desks. I had put money in the budget to completely redo the thing. Part of the issues that I discovered in there is over the last several years prior to my taking over, the canines were allowed to go in there and unsupervised had kind of messed up the carpet and the flooring in there, and it stunk. It really did. It was unsuitable for the public to go in there. So we ripped out everything, we cleaned it up, and we were ready to go in there, and they cut the budget. And I didn't have the money to go in there and finish it. So the following year, put the money in the budget, and they cut half of it, so I was able to at least get the inside all painted. So we got painted, we got some new walls put up inside, and so I couldn't finish it. Now this current budget year, I had the money put in there to get the flooring done, and because of remaining COVID issues, I couldn't get a flooring company to come up here and finish that. I was just told today that the flooring has been approved and the flooring has been ordered, and General Services said the flooring is being delivered next Monday and will be installed. So I'll get the flooring put in there. And then the next step is in the coming budget year, I have the money in the budget to get the desks installed in there. We're getting new workstations put in. The computers have already been ordered. So I'm hoping that by October, November at the latest, the final piece of the puzzle will be put in there. So the flooring will be done. It's completely repainted. The computers and desks will be installed. We'll begin to have an operational substation again. So that's my hope on that.
Well, this, I'll ask,
I'll ask this one, who will you have to man it since you're so understaffed?
Okay, that's kind of a couple of different questions. Right now, I still have two resident deputies working down here. I have a sergeant and I have a corporal that are still working down here. So they will be using the substation. The other issues are dealing with, I mean, that's going to be a long drawn out. Is there another question
There
there
is a
dealing with that? So we can then pull that question out, or?
there you go. That's
Oh.
for both of you.
Here's it. What will you do to fill vacant? Oh, here we go. Here's a question right here. This is a good question. Yes, we have had recently, since pretty much the beginning of the year, we've lost about 9 correctional deputies and 6 patrol deputies. Some of them left for reasons such as they no longer wanted to be in law enforcement. They've moved out of state. Some of them left because of better paying jobs in our adjoining counties that are paying much higher wages than we have. So they've chosen to go over there because of signing bonuses. You've probably heard, for example, Shasta County offering $15,000 signing bonus plus an average of $6 to $8 an hour more than we're paying. Reading Police Department, $40,000 signing bonuses plus about $8 to $12 an hour more than what we're paying here. I've been working closely with the Board of Supervisors, and we have some ARPA money available, and that's the American Recovery Act money that's come to the county through COVID money through the federal government. I put together a plan and presented that to the board, which they're considering, which would offer some incentives for our current employees to remain here in the county. So they're considering that. It's called a retention incentive. That's one thing that I put together. Another thing, I did meet in closed session today with the board. I explained to them some of the issues that we're having with retention, and I can't tell you what happens inside of a closed session, but I can tell you that they were receptive to the plan that I put together. They're considering it, and I'm hoping that if that comes to fruition in a very short period of time, we'll be able to do something to help our current employees remain here, and it will also help with recruitment of new people to come into the county. And what you have to understand though, because the sworn positions take a while. For example, when we hire a new patrol deputy, if they're not a lateral coming in, meaning lateral, they're already trained, they've already gone through the post academy, which is Peace Officer Standards and Training. If they're not already a deputy or a peace officer, they have to go to an academy, which is 6 months long. After that 6-month academy, if they're successful, now they have to go through a field training officer program. That's about 3 months right there. If they're successful for that, it's about another 2-3 months before they're even comfortable enough to be out there on their own to be qualified, shall we say. And so that's a long period of time before we even have a good deputy out on the road. A correctional officer, we hire them, we can get them out there fairly quick after a background, but a background's gonna be about 2 months, anywhere from a month to 2 months to get them through the system. We hire them, then there's a training process inside the jail in and of itself. And then after that, we've got to send them to a core academy, which is a correctional officer academy, which is about 3 months long. So the process in and of itself is not real quick, simple, like you're gonna hire them to go into a store. You hire them, boom, day one, you hire them, you feel good, you get them right into the counter and you start training them. It's not like that when we go into a specialized field like this. But another thing I've done for these vacant positions is I put together a plan to send to the county as far as separating some of these reclassifications, separating the dispatch positions from the dispatch correctional deputy position. Because we found out that some people are hesitant about applying for these positions. They don't want to work with inmates. They don't want to put themselves through an academy like that. So we're trying to separate the dispatch positions away from that so they can just work in the dispatch center. They don't have to have contact with the inmates. But some people don't want to dispatch. They just want to work with inmates. So if we can separate these positions off, we might have a better job, a better opportunity to recruit some more people. So these are some of the things that we're doing right now to fill those vacancies and to keep and retain people.
Thank you. Deputy Bailey, would you like an opportunity to answer what would you do to fill the vacant positions in the Sheriff's Department?
So at this point, I mean, obviously, you've just heard him speak about, that's the gist of it right there. What I feel like is the biggest difficulty at this point is getting our point across to the Board of Supervisors that public safety has got to be number one. I know all the Board of Supervisors believe that public safety is number one, but we have to focus on dollars and cents. There's no money trees growing in Trinity County. Well, maybe there are some, but none that we get money off of. And at the end of the day, it's dollars and cents. There's money in the county. It's what are the priorities? And I think it's just ongoing communication. It's good communication with the Board of Supervisors to readdress public safety as a priority, as the number one priority at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. So here's one of them. Wait, where is it? Sorry, the compound. Okay, code enforcement related. The compound property on Morgan Hill between Madrone and Locust. You know what? It's not my hood, so I don't have a visual. Was it red tagged? Are people living there now? Is there TPUD, water hooked up? It's a health hazard. Also homeless in the house on 3 by the high school. Can I add to that? There's also people on Hind Palm Road at a trash pile next to, on the straightaway with the dogs in the middle of the road that I almost hit too the other night, coming home. Can you? Sorry, I know. Can you, here's the card if you would like to answer Sheriff Saxon about the compounds, Morgan Hill.
That's what I'm trying to answer first. I answered the last one first.
But you're the acting sheriff.
I'm
She
the
is,
acting sheriff?
well, current, present,
Incumbent.
but you're currently right now also.
Yeah, but I'm not acting.
But what if I am? No, if I am, yeah,
Okay.
I know, right.
Yes, code enforcement has been to each of these places on more than one occasion. They have been cited. And to explain a little bit about how that process works, they have been cited, and once the property has been cited through the code enforcement program, those citations are civil in nature. They go to the county council. County council then has to act upon those and either take it to court for the civil process or not. And the last time I checked with code enforcement, which was last week, they actually said they cited the Morgan Hill property 3 times, and each time has gone to county council. They check with county council. County council says they're still working on it with the county to figure out what they want to do with that. So we have had environmental health go out there with us. We have had, I don't know if PUD has been out there. I have not checked on that, and I don't know if water is hooked up there. But I can find out about that. That I'm not aware of. So when we talk about code enforcement, it's kind of like an issue with, I explained it before, it's like when you're speeding and you get stopped for speeding, you get a ticket. Well, we don't continue to follow you around to see if you're going to keep speeding because you've already gotten the ticket. The ticket goes to court. So then the court then turns around and wait until the court case gets adjudicated. You either get fined or the case is dismissed. So in the code enforcement, that's how that process works. We wait until the county council decides on what they're gonna do with it. Unless there's another issue that comes up, and then code enforcement will go back out there. Code enforcement, with the number of people I have and the number of properties that they have to go out to, it's not feasible for them to keep going out to the exact same property time and time again. So we have to take a look at the number of properties around the entire 3,200 square miles of this county, and we have to go and hit each property as we can. Some people have said that code enforcement is not doing their job. Well, I beg to differ. They are doing their job. They've issued hundreds of citations over the last few years. Those citations have gone to county council, and especially those in the cannabis program right now, they'll tell you that they're going out there and going after the illegal, unlicensed cannabis properties. We need to, and which I've already done, is I've talked to the Board of Supervisors on what we can do as far as looking at revamping the code enforcement program. When my opponent was in code enforcement years ago, it was set up much differently. It was funded out of the general fund and primarily going after these types of programs, these types of properties. Now, since the code enforcement program is financed primarily through the cannabis licensing issues through the planning department, the primary focus has been placed on going after those in the licensed cannabis industry and ensuring that those properties are in compliance with our license program. And what that does is it puts a division on the code enforcement. There are those individuals that think that code enforcement should be spending more time on other ordinances, such as recently a lot of people complaining about roosters. I know it's a very important issue for those folks because it's very annoying, but at the same time, we have people with property issues on the ordinances as well. And then we have people with the ordinances dealing with the cannabis issue. I can't continue to divide up the work that's being done by code enforcement unless we have a firm division. Are they going to be funded by general fund? Or are they going to be funded by the cannabis program? So that's why I'm working with the Board of Supervisors to get a firm direction on where we want to go with this. Do we have one side? Do we have the other side? So until I can really get that pinned down, we're going to continue to have this issue of to get to these places when we can get to them. And I'm sorry, I know it's an issue that keeps going on and on and on, and we're doing the best we can. We're aware of this, and I can tell you we're not ignoring it. We have been out there, we have issued the citation, and we keep following up with county council to find out what they're going to do with this with the county.
Thank you. Deputy Bailey, would you like an opportunity to comment? Thank you.
So, what I can say is, yes, obviously, what I did back in 2011, 2012 is completely different than what's going on now with code enforcement. I don't know about the house on 3 by the high school, but the compound I've been to personally several times. I do not believe I have seen running water or power there for a long time. I had spoken to code enforcement officers probably a year ago or so, and the last I had heard is that the structures that are there have been red tagged. In the past, I can't speak to what's happening now, but in the past, we've had a situation where a home was red tagged over in Weaverville. When that home was red tagged, everyone was kicked out. It was boarded up, and we were able to do that, and it didn't take that long at all. It was actually done by the district attorney. As far as the red tag goes, it was done by the district attorney's office. And I know we as officers are participated in that process of kicking people out of that. It was a home, but it was definitely run down, no power, no water, holes in the floor, similar situation to what's going on at the compound. Our code enforcement guys, they, as the sheriff has said, have wrote many citations. He is correct. Unfortunately, since October 14th of last year, they've only had 10 code enforcement calls for service that are logged with the sheriff's department. And the majority of those do have reports that went along with them. A few of them, there was reports, but there was no citations that went with them. I think there was 2 of those where there was no citations that went with them. The people were warned. And I would say about half of those were marijuana related and half of them were related to trash or nuisance properties. So that's how I can answer that one.
I've got another one for you here.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It's your turn to go first. Can you explain how the sheriff's office budget is funded and your involvement in the creation of the budget, or will be? And will you help with any other budgets? Related in the county? It's just a question.
I think the last time I talked to the fiscal officer, we have somewhere around, I believe it's 17, 18, maybe 19 budgets. Those budgets are funded in a multitude of different ways. Some are grant funded, some are through the general fund. At this point, I'm not the sheriff, so I don't have any involvement in the creation of the budget. Obviously, when I'm elected as sheriff, I will have very much a big piece in the budget, working with the fiscal officer. I mean, she's the fiscal officer, so she is the one that actually handles the budget, and I participate in that process. Do I or will I help with other budgets? Like other budgets within the sheriff's office or other?
That's just, yeah, other budgets with the county. That's the question. Other budgets within the county.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, there's department heads and fiscal officers in each of those departments that, depending on what they're talking about. Yeah, I have a good working relationship with our fiscal officer. I have no doubt in my mind that I will not have an issue dealing with multiple budgets in that process.
Thank you. Same question for incumbent Saxon. There you go. Current and future, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You prefer that word.
The sheriff's budget is funded by a combination of state, federal, and local monies. Locally, we're funded by the general fund, and that's a combination of property tax money, sales tax money, and whatnot. From the state level, we get funding from AB 109 and rural sheriff's money that comes from the state. Money that also comes in from some of your vehicle licensing fees that come back to the state. You know, I recently did a little research because I got a little concerned because somebody had asked a question, hey, when you buy something online, does county get any of the sales tax that you pay? You know, you order stuff on Amazon and you pay sales tax. So I come back to Trinity County and I started asking around, and surprisingly, some people, I mean, there were a lot of people didn't know. So I reached out to Senator McGuire's office and got a hold of one of his staffers, and they didn't really know either. So found out that there's a Wayfair bill that was passed in 2019 in California, and that forced a lot of these online companies to pay California their online sales tax money. And you know all about this.
But that mostly goes back to the state,
Yeah,
not
well,
to the county. Yeah.
Actually, well, I got some that said 1 million some dollars comes back to $1,500,000 in 2020 came back to Trinity County, right? And that was an increase of $400,000 over the previous year, which was really interesting.
After that bill passed.
Yeah, after the bill passed, yeah. So that was cool. I didn't know any of that stuff. I thought, wow, that's great. How much is it gonna be next year? But, so keep buying online, okay? Because that sales tax money is coming back. I'm sorry. Shop local. Shop local. But if you have to buy online, no. Anyway, so that money does come back, and that does help the county, and then that, in turn, that is helping through general fund, help some of the sheriff's budget. Every year, starting about January, I go to the department, different divisions within the sheriff's office, and I remind them, start planning for the upcoming budget, and what do you need for the next year? What do you need for the next year? And we start putting in little post-it notes to the business manager, and she starts making all these little notations of things that are going to come up. We start talking about personnel issues. We start talking about what are you going to need to buy for this? What do you need for buy that? I talk to the undersheriff and different things about how many cars are we going to need? How are we going to buy those? What they're going to be outfitted with? So we start doing budget building, and that's how we go into that. So I am very involved in budgets because, again, with the Highway Patrol, I was involved in budget building. I did grant managements for the statewide grant program. I also ran the budgets for every one of the offices that I worked in throughout the state. When I ran the recruitment program for the department, I was in charge with every one of the 8 field divisions, their recruitment programs, and I ran their budgets. So, you know, I'm very familiar with that. I'm very, very good with working with the CAO's office in budget building time there. And we have good communications talking about, hey, Sheriff, you asked for, you know, $8 million, but you're only going to get 6. And so we start doing the negotiations back and forth as far as where's the money coming from. And, you know, talking about those relationships, when I first took office, our first budget was about $8.4 million. And because of these good relationships we've been able to build and talking about it and only asking for things that we absolutely needed, last year's budget was able to increase to $10.4 million. So, you know, it's been very helpful to only ask for the things we need and to negotiate these things and to be able to build those budgets up. I don't know how much longer that's going to continue because money is tight. You know, like Jamie was saying, you know, money does not grow on trees, and you have to look for every dollar you can. And that's another reason why I do go out of the county a lot, and I do have a lot of meetings with people to bring in as much money as we can. But, you know, help with other budgets. You know, I do talk to the probation department a lot because we have a thing called the CCP, Community Corrections Partnership, and probation department gets state money that comes in to help with the courts, probation, sheriffs, behavioral health, and these are grant monies that come in every year. And so I participate in the budget on that. And that's money that comes in, and currently that's funding a correctional deputy and a sheriff's deputy. So that's additional money that helps us out well. I hope that answers whoever wrote that question.
I have a little attachment to that question. Can you explain how code enforcement is funded?
I wonder who that came in through.
I just said it.
Oh, you want me to answer that first?
Dana Hauser from Hayfork.
Code enforcement is funded by the fees that are paid by licensed cultivators, cannabis cultivators. When they apply for a license, they go to the planning department and they pay, I don't know what the fees are.
It depends on your license
It depends on the license type and then the size of
Everyone
the,
pays into the general plan.
why don't you come on up here and
And sure, I will, happily.
Depending on your license type, a portion goes to the general plan and then a portion goes into the cannabis budget. Where our fees go, we're not quite sure, but the code enforcement is funded through the cannabis department, through the planning department.
Yes.
And I'm really happy to hear Tim admit that. Thank you.
And every meeting that I go to,
In plain English, yes.
she asks that question every meeting. No. And I'm happy to explain it to you. And I am very thankful when you ask that question too. And it's good. It's good for the public to understand how the program is funded. So anyway, as I build my budget, we always program in what the personnel costs are going to be for code enforcement, which includes vehicles, which includes anticipated fuel, it includes personnel expenditures, retirement, PERS, insurance, things like that, including any equipment that may be needed for code enforcement, and I build that into a budget. So we project out what that budget's going to be. And then as the year goes through, we submit to the planning department every month what expenditures we've had for that month. Then planning department then will journal entry back that money to the sheriff's office to compensate us for what we've spent. So, for example, I budget, I think this year was a neighborhood of $660,000 that we would spend on code enforcement for this year. I don't get that money into my budget to spend. That's just a number, a placeholder that says I'm going to spend that kind of money. So every month when I spend whatever it is I spend, we put a bill to the planning department, then they give me that money and I cover my expenses. So I think at this point this year, we're about $400,000 that we've spent. So that doesn't mean I got all this $680,000. That just meant that's what I'm telling them I'm gonna spend. If I don't spend it all, I don't get the extra. That stays over here. I only get what it is I actually spent. So,
Yeah.
clear?
Yep. Oh, the next question, who's the budget? Okay, so Deputy Bailey starts, now it is your turn to answer this. What happens to cannabis license money that's been taken but no license is issued? Do growers get their money back? That wasn't my question. But it's no. Yeah, you go for that.
I don't know the answer to this question. It's obviously something that, as the sheriff, I would have those answers. But at this point, not being the sheriff and not being a part of the code enforcement process, I don't know if
Yeah,
the
I know.
growers get
Some
their
of the
money back.
questions are more targeted for Sheriff Saxon. How, maybe after these two, you'll be able to just, I just don't want to limit your opportunity to have a position. Okay. So Sheriff Saxon, same question to you, and then there's an additional follow-up after that.
Yeah, this is a planning department question, because the sheriff's office has nothing to do with collecting cannabis license fees. So that's just a follow-up. I have nothing to do with those fees.
And no comment. Okay. Don't go too far. How many cannabis licenses have been issued for Hayfork area? Is Hayfork water being sold to growers? Who is regulating the water?
Okay, again, this is a planning department question with regard to the cannabis licenses issued for the Hayfork area. I don't have anything to do with tracking that. I'm sorry, I don't know. Hayfork water being sold to growers, that's the water district here. My understanding is there was an ordinance that was either proposed to be coming up or it recently passed with the water district to eliminate water being taken out of the district. I don't know if it's passed. I was talking to Mr. Hare about it and I don't know. Does anybody know if it passed?
It actually passed, and then Kenny probably knows more about it because he was part of that, but I think that they then revised it a little bit and they can go to the water department and apply to get emergency
To get
water.
emergency water out of the district?
Yeah.
Okay.
It hasn't been revised as it was originally written. We expanded the point of use from the actual water district to the fire district, so it included places like, you know, as far out as Summit Creek and Trinity Pines.
Okay, so there's a limitation on how far out of the
It
district.
is strictly, and I want to
For
emphasize
emergency.
this, based on the supply of the reservoir. When
Oh, I
the supply
see.
is high, we've given water. You come
Okay.
up, you ask for water, you get water. When the supply goes down, to protect the district and its needs, especially for in fire times, with that considered, that as the reservoir drops, the surplus drops, it gets cut off to go outside the district. It's always the district priority.
Yeah, my understanding is, I don't know who's regulating the water, coming out of the district.
Kenny Wiley is.
Kenny Wiley is
Yeah.
regulating the water.
The Trinity County Water Board
Okay, so,
is regulating that.
so it's not,
There is a public graph of elevations of the reservoir to make those determinations.
it is not the sheriff's office who is regulating the water.
Not Hayfork, it's not.
Is that the same position you would like to have? Okay, great. Sounds good. All right, see, sometimes it's easier to go second. This is the last question I have, and it's not about cannabis. Isn't that wonderful? Do you have a plan for obtaining money from the resiliency fund the state has equaling over $140 million for communities to help with OES programs and facilities? I believe it would be your turn to start there, Deputy Bailey. It's fancy writing and it's smaller, so.
So, as not being sheriff right now, I'm limited in what I can do and what I cannot do. My plan would be is if there's monies available, I would do everything in my power to obtain monies, apply for and obtain. Right now, OES is not under the purview of the sheriff, although we work closely with OES. To help with OES programs and facilities. Yeah. At this point, these are things that I can look into. Obviously, as the sheriff, I would be looking into, I would be addressing the options that are available all over the state of California, grants and otherwise. But until I'm the sheriff, I'm limited in that.
What does OES stand for?
Office of Emergency Services.
Yeah, Office of Emergency Services. Thank you or your question or answer. Haha. My question. Now, Deputy Incumbent Sheriff Saxon. Jiminy Christmas, it's been a long day.
It's a long day.
Real long.
That was a long board meeting.
I'm going on 12, folks. Seriously.
You know, I'll tell you this, $140 million sounds like a lot of money until you figure out there's 58 counties in the state of California, and most of the large counties suck up a lot of this money before it even gets down to us. Some of this money was earmarked for a program for communications equipment, and we got about $60,000 of this for a repeater system for a high-frequency communication system. So we did apply for that. My understanding is we got that. Some of this other money is designed to help with some other programs that we get on a regular basis. But to tell you the truth, there's not a lot of money available for Trinity County out of this particular program, and I think we've pretty much gotten everything we can with this right now. But Office of Emergency Services is very helpful. We get 2 grants off of them pretty much every year. HGS, my mind is blank now too. It's about $50,000 a year, and then another one that we can use for equipment. This past year, we used that money to get needed safety equipment for the new jail, for for the correctional deputies to use for, in case of any type of civil unrest of the inmates in there to protect them for emergency response inside. So there's different types of monies that we can utilize off of those particular grants.
Thank you. That wraps up all of our questions from you, the beautiful public of Hayfork and the surrounding areas. Thank you to all of our candidates that showed up and drove over the mountain, wherever you came from. Appreciate it. I also want to shout out a huge thanks to Tara Kephart for making the delicious cookies, chocolate chip cookies, fresh today. Really, she's not even here for her round of applause. Again, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Carrie, for the Fairgrounds Dining Hall facility. Support your fairgrounds, county fairgrounds.
Buy local.
Buy local. Support the Hayfork Chamber of Commerce and all of its businesses. Yeah, thank you so much.
Good dog. Yeah.